Welcome back to Outside Views, and bro, we need to talk. And today we're talking about a slow motion car crash that was entirely predictable. We're discussing the latest whispers, the emerging deals, and the sheer unadulterated reality check that is hitting the UK's post-Brexit energy and industrial policy. And the headline? UK set for Brexit energy deal with the EU. But what that really means is, the sovereign, independent, global Britain everyone was promised is now scrambling cap in hand for a temporary lifeline from the very bloc it left. The context here is a looming painful deadline, and that's January 1st in 2026. That is the date when the EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM, moves into its definitive punitive phase. And let me tell you, if you thought the Northern Ireland Protocol was a headache, CBAM is shaping up to be a full-blown migraine for the entire UK economy. It's a carbon tax on imports designed to protect EU companies who already pay a carbon price through the EU's emission trading system, the very system the UK chose to exit. And the reports are clear. British businesses are facing an estimated £800 million bill in potential CBAM payments by 2030 alone if nothing changes. And that's hundreds of millions pouring directly from UK industry and ultimately from UK households straight into the EU's coffers. This isn't just a business problem. It's a cost of living problem, a jobs problem, and frankly, an embarrassment. So why this sudden desperate dash for a temporary fix? Because the EU is holding all the cards, you remember that phrase? And the UK has finally realized how completely exposed its major exporters are. The CBAM is not some petty trade barrier, it's a powerful geopolitical tool. It applies a levy to imports of carbon-intensive goods, think steel, aluminum, cement, fertilizers, electricity and hydrogen, based on the carbon emissions embedded in their production. If you are a UK steel or cement manufacturer with the vast majority of your exports heading across the channel, this tax could cripple you. The EU's logic is cold, hard and rational. They want to stop carbon leakage, where companies just move their polluting factories to places with weaker climate laws. The UK, having set up its own UK emission trading systems, or UK ETS, outside the larger, more mature EU system, now faces two immediate devastating problems, as businesses have been warning. First, there's the price difference. The UK ETS carbon price has historically and frequently been lower than the EU ETS price. And CBAM hits UK exporters with a difference in price. It's an effective fine for having a less rigorous, less expensive carbon market. And second, the red tape nightmare. Even if the prices somehow miraculously align, which they often don't, this system imposes a massive, complex, non-tariff barrier. UK firms would still have to meticulously calculate, document, and get independently verified the exact carbon content of every single product they ship to Europe. It's an administrative paralysis, and one that is entirely self-inflicted by choosing divergence. And the desperation is palpable. We hear that the UK Relations Minister is going to ask Brussels for a temporary exemption. But the EU's own legislation, their own rulebook, does not allow for a blanket temporary exemption like this. It's not a favor they can just hand out. Yet there's a quiet confidence in Brussels that they will find a technical mechanism, a way around the law to reduce at least the immediate pain. Think about that. The UK leaves the EU to escape its laws, only to return begging for a workaround for those very laws, a workaround that only Brussels can grant. This is what taking back control looks like in reality. A loss of influence followed by an emergency appeal for regulatory leniency. And then we hit the issue that is the gift that keeps on giving to post-Brexit instability, that's Northern Ireland. The whole point of the Windsor framework was to smooth trade and avoid a hard border. But Northern Ireland remains effectively in the EU single market for goods, and that means it's tangled up in the EU's carbon regulations. If the UK isn't exempted from CBAM, what happens at the land border with the Republic of Ireland? Does the EU-mandated tax on carbon-intensive goods suddenly create a new regulatory border on the island of Ireland? Industry bodies like Energy UK have been absolutely clear. This would be a bizarrely perverse outcome that directly contradicts the aims of both the Windsor Framework and any climate change mitigation strategy. It would, in the words of a policy expert, be a political time bomb. And the EU is fully aware of the political catastrophe that would ensue. And this is one of the strongest leverage points the UK has, the danger of undermining the fragile stability in Northern Ireland. It's not about economic merit, it's about geopolitical damage control, and that, more than anything, is why a temporary fix is so likely. They need to defuse the immediate bomb while they negotiate the permanent solution. The supposed permanent solution, the big-ticket item that will finally deliver the mutual exemption from CBAM, is the commitment to link the UK and EU emissions trading systems. And this commitment, announced at the first post-Brexit reset summit in London in May 2025, is the ultimate acknowledgement of failure. 5 years after leaving the European carbon market, the UK is now agreeing to enter complex negotiations to essentially rejoin it. They are calling it an ETS link, but what it means is that once the systems are mutually recognized, carbon allowances can be traded across both jurisdictions. And the ultimate goal? A single stable carbon price for both the UK and the EU. And this stability is absolutely vital for investment in everything from carbon capture and storage to new renewable energy interconnectors. But listen to the language. The agreement on the ETS link is non-legally binding. Negotiations are tough, and the EU's position is that the UK scheme must achieve dynamic alignment with relevant EU rules, and the UK's cap must be at least as ambitious as the EU's. This is the price of admission. The UK must continually expand and reflect EU ETS rules in its national system, rules that it no longer has a vote on. It's kind of the ultimate fax machine arrangement, just with a massive carbon market. The lack of efficiency in energy trading since leaving the internal energy market has already cost UK consumers hundreds of millions. Estimates put the cumulative cost at up to £370 million in 2022 alone, rising to potentially £500 million a year. This ETS link and the exploration of recoupling electricity markets is simply an attempt to claw back efficiency and lower consumer bills, proving the original decision to leave was detrimental to energy costs and security. The European Commission published its recommendation for opening formal linkage negotiations in July 2025. This process is slow, technical, and fraught with political sensitivity. And that's why the temporary CBAM fix is necessary, because the permanent fix is expected to take months, if not longer. And this isn't just about carbon trading and steel mills. The real tragedy of the slow-motion policy retreat is what it reveals about the UK's global influence and security. Look at the other deal currently being negotiated. UK participation in the EU's new €150 billion rearmament fund, initiatives like ReArm and SAFE, that's Security Action for Europe. The UK government is actively seeking access to this fund. And why? Because the modern geopolitical landscape, especially with Russia's ongoing aggression, demands European solidarity and industrial scale. The UK's defence industry wants to participate in EU-funded military projects which would support jobs and boost growth. But let's connect the dots. The former Prime Minister was talking about global Britain, but now the UK is rushing to realign its carbon policy with Europe to save its businesses and realign its defence policy with Europe to strengthen its security. The US has even pushed back on the EU's powerful new corporate sustainability due diligence directive legislation that will force British companies like BP and Shell to comply with EU net zero targets or risk losing the European market. The US pushes back, but where is the UK? It's caught in the middle. As one Cambridge professor put it, energy is the foundation of geopolitical power. By having a less efficient, less stable energy trading system after leaving the EU's internal energy market, a move that increases reliance on interconnectors while simultaneously making them less efficient, the UK has made itself more vulnerable. Energy UK has warned that the failure to develop a new efficient model of electricity trading risks hindering vital investment in interconnectors. Brexit has factually made maintaining UK energy security more difficult, driving up consumer costs by hundreds of millions due to less efficient trade. The ultimate second-order consequence of this failed independence is not just higher gas bills, but a weakened continent. If Europe becomes more vulnerable to energy shocks, whose soldiers will be called upon to step up? The burden will fall inevitably on nations like the UK. So what is the core lesson here? The UK left the European Union claiming to take back control, but in the most crucial areas of the 21st century economy, that's climate policy, energy stability and collective defense, it's being forced to conform to the EU's agenda. The temporary fix for CBAM isn't a victory, it's a humiliating climb down. It's an urgent, pragmatic surrender to economic reality. It simply buys time for the UK to do what it should have done all along: align its carbon market to a degree that makes cross-border trade efficient and competitive again. They traded genuine political and economic influence in Brussels for the illusion of control at home. And now the true price is coming due. Administrative chaos, hundreds of millions in potential new taxes, a new regulatory border threat in Ireland, and an inescapable gravitational pull back towards the EU's orbit. And this energy deal, this defense partnership, these are not the signs of a great nation charting its own course. They are the signals of a necessary, inevitable course correction. It's a bitter pill, but sometimes the only way to move forward is to admit the path you've been on was a terrible, self-inflicted wrong turn. And I'm really looking forward what you think in the comments. And thanks for joining Outside Views today. And if you want to see another video right now, the next one is right here in the end screen.